Far from Rome, in the great halls of Constantinople, Egyptian priests gathered in solemn assembly. They came not as servants, but as guardians of their ancient faith, ready to decide the very fate of their belief in Christos. The Monophysites rose with bold conviction, declaring that Christ had only one divine nature. To them, he was not of mortal flesh, but fully and eternally divine, a vision rooted in the wisdom of Egypt. Across from them, the Dyophysites, also Egyptians, stood firm. They argued that Christ carried both natures, human and divine, together. Their voices clashed like thunder in the chamber. Eutyches, father of the Monophysites, held high a scroll inscribed with the word Christos. With fiery passion, he proclaimed that Christ's single divine nature was unshakable truth, echoing Egypt's ancient gods. Nestorius, defiant and unbending, refused to call Mary the Theotokos, the Mother of God. To him, she had birthed only a created creature, not the eternal divine, and he rejected the scroll declaring Christos as one with God. The council roared with debate, each side hurling scripture and reason like weapons. Egyptians led the struggle, while pale-skinned Romans lingered in the background, silent but watchful. At last, the decree was sealed. The great statue of Serapis, long honored in Egypt, was reimagined as the anointed Christos, and Mary, once mortal, was lifted as Theotokos, bearer of divinity. But unity was broken. Egyptians turned against Egyptians, divided into rival camps. Brothers in blood became enemies in faith, and the fracture deepened with every passing day. On one side stood the Monophysite priests, clad in simple white robes. Their voices rang out, declaring one divine nature, echoing their conviction through halls and marketplaces alike. Opposite them, the Diophysite Melchites, richly dressed in embroidered linen, answered with their own truth. To them, Christ was both human and divine, and their defiance set Egypt aflame with argument. Words became fire in the council halls and in the streets. One nature clashed with two natures, and voices thundered across Alexandria like waves against stone. Crowds gathered outside, drawn into the quarrel. Merchants, students, and families repeated the words of the priests. And watching silently were the pale-skinned Romans and Byzantines. Patient and still, they let Egyptians tear at each other, waiting for their time to seize power. Decades later, Emperor Justinian cast his will upon the city. In 537, he raised the Hagia Sophia, not just a temple, but a monument of power, carved stone by stone through Egyptian skill. Dark-skinned Egyptians shaped its stones with precision, guiding pale laborers under their direction, even as Justinian claimed it as his glory. Inside the golden dome, the memory of Serapis stirred. The great statue dissolved into new forms, the pale Christos and his mother Mary, now enthroned in sacred majesty. Egyptians stood beneath the dome, some gazing in sorrow, others in awe. They had seen their ancient god transformed, claimed by the empire yet still whispering of Egypt's past. The crowd bowed to the new images of Christos and Mary. Yet in the shadows, Serapis lingered still, not vanished, only hidden beneath another name. The Hagia Sophia towered as the empire's heart. To the rulers, Christos reigned supreme. But to Egyptians, the old gods still lived on, reshaped yet enduring. The Hagia Sophia now stood complete, its golden dome gleaming above Constantinople. Years before, Emperor Zeno, himself an Egyptian, sought compromise through his Henoticon. He dreamed of unity between Monophysites and Dyophysites, but instead, his decree satisfied no one. The Acacian Schism soon followed, tearing Rome from Constantinople. From the Nile to the imperial capital, the church itself fractured under the weight of disagreement. Anastasius rose to power, pale-skinned and stern. Though he leaned toward Monophysites, his favor ignited unrest. His throne trembled as faith and empire pulled apart. In the hippodrome, the blues and greens erupted. The Nika Riots set Constantinople aflame, and the people's rage thundered louder than the emperor's command. Basilius struck back without mercy. His soldiers stormed the hippodrome, cutting down thousands until rebellion gave way to silence and blood-soaked stone. But Theodora's hand turned to faith. At the request of Prince Harith ibn Gabala, she sent Jacob Baradaeus to evangelize the non-Egyptians outside Constantinople's walls. From this choice, the Jacobite Church was born. Jacob set forth as a lone Coptic Egyptian priest, carrying parchments and teachings. His mission was to spread the Monophysite faith beyond the Nile, to peoples yet untouched by Egypt. In towns and villages, Jacob's voice carried. Pale-skinned and mixed-race Syrians and distant wanderers listened as he preached, binding them to Egypt's hidden Christ through word and fire. Jacob's message struck deep roots. In hidden gatherings and open fields, his followers repeated his words. Christ was of one divine nature, pure and unbroken. Through Syria and beyond, he traveled, carrying Egypt's faith into new lands. Villagers welcomed him with bread and water, while nobles invited him into their halls to hear his teaching. Inside the Hagia Sophia, Christos reigned beneath golden mosaics. The empire's leaders declared victory, believing their orthodoxy had triumphed. But beyond the walls, another truth took hold. Two worlds emerged side by side, one imperial, one Jacobite, each claiming Christos, yet each walking a different path. The Jacobite legacy endured, spreading through Syrians and Arabs alike. Their voices carried Egypt's hidden Christ into lands that the empire would never tame. Attention turned to the three chapters, writings condemned as heresy. The council debated with fire, each word driving the wedge deeper between East and West Egyptian bishops stood proudly, dark-robed and resolute. Justinian summoned bishops from across the empire, calling the Second Council of Constantinople in the year 553. And so, Part 3 closes. Constantinople stood divided, Hagia Sophia shining within, Jacobites thriving without. The empire fractured, its struggle unresolved, setting the stage for what was yet to come. Stay tuned for Part 4, like and subscribe.